This is going to be about how you apply your tips and how you get your prep work to build your foundation for acrylic. Okay, when your client comes into you, they're going to be coming in obviously like this. Just nothing on their hands. If they have something, you might have done the soak off beforehand, but overall, it's just going to be the natural nails as your base. You're going to take a drill on the lowest speed possible. For this one, it's going to be a 3. And take a sanding band with the mandrel bit and take all of the shine away from the natural nail. The cuticle, the side walls, the nail plate, the free edge. And you want to make sure you're going all the way around. You do this before the tips go on because the tips won't stick because there's oils. The client, you wash your hands, you have oil residue from the soap they use, they did their hair this morning, whatever have you. You're just taking all of this away so that the nail is prepped. When I'm going in for this, I'm taking the sidewall, like the skin, and making sure I can get in there all the way. And this isn't something you have to do over and over again. Like once it's gone, you can tell how ashy it is. Once it's over, you can see this patch that's not done though. This area still has some oil, so I'm pulling that skin back. And this should be a light feathering motion. There shouldn't be anything like you're trying to debulk acrylic or anything. It's going to be really light. You have to always keep in mind that this is the natural nail, so you're not trying to go like really crazy. So you're done with that drill portion. And these are the sanding bands that I use. They're fine grit pro bands. These are just the ones I pick up at my local nail supply. My nail glue, which is this one at the moment. And then the tips I'm going to be using. Okay, when you have a nail tip, there's like several different kinds. Ones that have wells. Can you see? Probably can't even see the well. I'm going to give you up close later. You want it to fit sidewall to sidewall on the natural nail without having to put it on there, push it down to make it fit. The tip should actually naturally rest on each corner, just like that. I'm going to turn the tip over, take my nail glue, and I'll be applying a really small amount just in the well. I'll be not touching it with my hands, flipping it over, and waiting a few seconds. Just like that. Going on to the next finger. As far as sizing, every client is different. So If you guys can kind of see, I'm going to try to hold it, half of it in place. You can see, well, maybe you have to hold your own finger. Let's see if I can explain. When I take this tip, I can see her natural nail all on this side and a little bit on this side, so this tip doesn't fit. Just because that there is more than enough to be exposed, where I could easily take the tip up like that. So that's not the size I need. So you're gonna go up a size. Place it, still not. That's perfect. It goes sidewall to sidewall without me having to push it into place so that it could stay. A little bit of glue. Just like that. Now this well fits. It's just a little bit too big that for what I would consider to be something that fits perfectly. So what I'll do with that is I'll take some nail scissors and I'm just gonna cut the tails off of the cut the tips off of the wells. That way, when you place it, nothing is leaning into her sidewall. It stays on the nail plate. And then you apply the glue the same exact way, just a little bit. You don't see, that's way too much glue. If you put too much, you just tap it off, and put it on. This happens a lot more often than you think. Okay. Too big. A little too big, but this is better than going too small. You don't want to go too small because that is going to cause the nail tip, which is obviously made out of plastic, to tighten up once you start to put the acrylic. If you put a tip that is a perfect fit that you have to squeeze on there, that acrylic is going to make the tip even tighter, and then it's going to eventually fall off in a couple of days because that tip is just not the correct size for that finger. So same thing with the thumb. It's kind of, this would be a tip that I would consider to be too much of a perfect fit because I'm having to push down on it. I'd rather just go up a size than to have it be on there pushed down. Just like that. I do see it's a little bigger on this side, so I am going to, same thing, cut the corners. And lay it on there to see how that fits. If I like it, I put my nail glue. I don't know why so much is coming out of this glue. I'll tap some of the excess off and then just go ahead and quickly apply it. Whenever you apply a tip, taking a quick, you have like a few seconds to really change the tip if it's on there crooked, or if you applied it leaning too much one way or the other. But when you apply it, take a quick glance at it and say, like, okay, is it straight? If so, leave it. If not, try to take it off carefully. If not, you're going to have to soak it in acetone and then do that whole process trying to get it to come off. So now we're going to prep our tips. which she doesn't want them this long, but I'm just going to show you how you would if you were to leave the entire tip. Still taking the sanding band on a still low speed because you're working with the natural nail. Even though there's a tip on there, there's no need to be any higher of a speed. Only working at the portion where the tip meets the natural nail. You've already edged this out, so going over this entirely is going to be too much on the natural nail to take. So we're just going to start at the side wall of the tip and work our way over. Hardly ever, like not hardly ever, but like very lightly crossing over from the natural nail onto the nail tip. Getting those corners, feathering it into the natural nail. And if you feel like you like to, you can do the entire nail tip as well. So I'm going to do that for every single finger, getting those corners nice and clean. And you can even see here where the nail glue has bled onto the natural nail. Just getting that off and losing that shine to the nail tip. Getting in those corners to blend those out. So this is going to make your nail enhancement stay longer, making sure there are no gaps in between the natural nail and that tip. And on the ones that we cut, you really do have a really big ledge, is what I would call it. And you just want to thin that out and blend it into the natural nail. And there's a little one here too, so we'll just lightly feather that. And that is exactly how I would do that. Now that I'm finished with using the e-file, I'm going to go in with a hand file. And this is where I like to sharpen up my lines. You can tell this tip kind of has a hump to it, if you will. Some people like it, some people don't. The edges are not square. In order to get like really crisp edges, I find that taking a hand file to this helps that process, along with shaping your sidewall. So that's typically where I start, is my sidewalls, keeping that file pretty up and down. And again, this is a nail tip, so keeping in mind that this doesn't need a whole bunch of work. Or not work, but like pressure. So holding the tip more than I am the client's finger, because this is where the like weakest point of the nail is. There's no need to hold it up here, and you're going back and forth like this on the client's nail. It's going to only hurt their free edge. You want to support the nail tip and just lightly go back and forth. And just with that, you can see how much more crisp the free edge is on the pinky nail in comparison to the one that has absolutely no hand filing to it. This makes all the difference in your application and your technique. And that is how I would apply acrylic tips. And from here, I'll just go in with my application. And I know I'm like touching a lot, but I have gloves on, so there's no natural oils that are going onto the nail plate again. But if you don't wear gloves, keep that in mind. Like a lot of your natural oils, when you're trying to see if your work is smooth, going over the nail does transfer your oils onto their skin. So just keep that in mind. Or even sometimes the clients touch their own nails and you might see it and have to go back over it. And that all has to do with your retention. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye. Okay, I'm using the Mia Secret Extra Bond, and this is going to be a telltale sign of how well your tip application and your prep was, because you should be able to really not have any gaps or anything that tells the difference between the free edge, the nail tip and the natural nail. And this is kind of something that just really shows how well your application and your prep was with that e-file and blending everybody together. Because just like that, you should like not be able to tell because it's going to be that smooth. For me personally, I do like to use one hand with the primer first and then go in with the other hand, because sometimes you take a lot longer on a set than you anticipated.